Ciao, and welcome to Immersion Travel Italy. I'm Katerina Ferrara, travel author and your host. Over the past 2 episodes, we've explored some of southern Italy's most spectacular summer destinations. We began in Sicily, where volcanoes, ancient civilizations, island adventures, and turquoise waters create some of Europe's most diverse coastal regions. We then traveled across the Strait of Messina to Calabria and Campania, discovering hidden beaches, dramatic cliffs, fishing villages, island excursions, archaeological treasures, and some of Italy's most iconic coastal scenery. Today, we're going to continue our journey eastward to the region that has undergone one of the most remarkable tourism transformations in Italy over the past decade. Welcome to Puglia. Located in the heel of Italy's famous boot, Puglia offers summer experiences unlike any other region we've explored so far. Here, the landscape is brighter, flatter. The architecture is whiter. The coastline seems endless. Ancient olive groves stretch toward the horizon, providing Italy with most of its olives, while fishing boats bob gently in the harbors that have connected Italy to the Mediterranean world for thousands of years. Puglia is a region of contrasts. The Adriatic coastline offers some cliffs, sea caves, picturesque towns perched above crystal clear water. The Ionian coastline provides long sandy beaches, shallow turquoise seas, and some of the most beautiful swimming conditions in all of Italy. In between, visitors can discover whitewashed villages like Ostuni, Baroque cities like Lecce, ancient farmland, and culinary tradition that remains deeply connected to land and sea. One of the things I love most about Puglia is that it manages both feeling welcoming, authentic, and casual. While tourism has certainly grown here, many towns still remain strongly local. Evening passeggiate fill historic centers. Fishermen continue to work in traditional harbors like the harbor at Trani, my favorite town in Puglia. Before we begin, I'd like to mention that if today's episode is for you to start planning a trip to Puglia, my ultimate festival and travel guide Puglia goes far beyond beaches and photographs. Inside, you'll find detailed town guides, walking tours with all the information you need, sites to see, transportation information, which towns have trains, how far out of town the train station is, accommodation recommendations, local food specialties, seasonal events, festivals, and practical advice to help you experience Puglia to its fullest. The guide covers all of the destinations we're going to include today, from Bari to Polignano a Mare, Monopoli, Alberobello, Ostuni, Lecce, Otranto, Gallipoli, Trani, Vieste, and dozens of other towns and hundreds of festivals. One of my favorite aspects of researching the book was how different each area of Puglia feels, from the dramatic coastline of Gargano in the north to the turquoise waters of Salento in the south. Each part of the region offers its own traditions, foods, architecture, and atmosphere. As always, my goal is to not simply help you see Puglia, but to experience it through history, festivals, local traditions, and unforgettable moments that often happen when you slow down and explore beyond the famous attractions. Now let's begin our journey through one of Italy's most spectacular summer destinations. Families gather in piazzas after sunset. Local festivals remain an important part of community life. Puglia is also a region of extraordinary food, home to the orecchietti pasta, the little ears, burrata cheese, exceptional olive oil, fresh seafood, local wines, and some of the Mediterranean's finest agricultural products. Throughout the episode, we'll explore the beautiful beaches, charming coastal towns, hidden coves, sea caves, island excursions, and unforgettable summer experiences. We're going to talk about towns like Polignano a Mare, Monopoli, Gallipoli, Otranto, and some of Italy's best sought-after destinations. We'll also venture beyond the famous names to explore places that many visitors overlook. And as always, we'll discuss practical travel advice, transportation, local traditions, and ways to experience the region more deeply. Puglia may no longer be Italy's best-kept secret, but it remains one of the most rewarding summer destinations. So grab your sunglasses, pack your beach bag, and join me as we uncover the summer secrets of Puglia. Before we begin exploring the beaches, the coastal towns, and the summer experience, let's take a moment to understand the region. Puglia forms the heel of the boot and occupies the country's southeastern corner. Home to approximately 3.9 million residents, it's one of southern Italy's largest and most populous regions. What makes Puglia unique is its extraordinary relationship with the sea. The region is bordered by 2 different bodies of water. To the east lies the Adriatic, while the Ionian Sea stretches along the southwestern coast. Together, they create more than 560 miles or 900 kilometers of coastline, one of the longest coastlines in Italy. The landscapes vary considerably. Along portions of the Adriatic coast, visitors find dramatic limestone cliffs, sea caves, hidden coves, and picturesque towns. Further south in the Salento Peninsula, the coastline alternates between rocky promontories and beautiful sandy beaches. The Ionian coast is known for long stretches of sand and remarkably clear turquoise water that often surprises first-time visitors. Unlike Sicily and Campania, Puglia is not known for islands. Instead, the region's appeal comes from its extensive coastline, charming seaside towns, and easy access to the sea from almost every corner of the region. The largest city is Bari, the vibrant port city and capital of Puglia. Other important destinations include Lecce, also called the Florence of the South, Polignano a Mare, Monopoli, Otranto, Gallipoli, Vieste, and Alberobello. One of the great advantages of Puglia is accessibility. Many international travelers arrive to Rome and then continue to Puglia by high-speed train into Bari. Direct trains connect Rome and Bari in about 4 hours. Others fly directly into Bari, Puglia's largest airport, or into Brindisi, which serves much of the Salento Peninsula. Once you arrive, transportation is relatively straightforward. The main coastal cities are connected by train, while rental cars provide greater flexibility for exploring the beaches, smaller villages, and rural areas. We found the roads in Puglia to be of the highest quality, signed everywhere along the autostrada. It was easy to get around. The roads are in really good shape, so no trouble driving. Salento refers to the southern portion of the peninsula, the long peninsula that forms the very tip of Italy's heel. This area is famous for some of the region's most beautiful beaches, clear waters, traditional villages, and vibrant summer atmosphere. Unlike Calabria, where I recommended a rental car, in Puglia you can get around with a train. That train does connect all of those cities along the beach. The pace is slower, the architecture is brighter, the food is deeply connected to the land and sea, and summer life revolves around the beaches. In the region, you'll find travelers who slow down and embrace the rhythms of southern Italy can really enjoy their time here. Puglia's 5 summer personalities. The first is whitewashed Puglia. Towns such as Ostuni, Loco Rotondo, and Cisternino rise above the countryside in brilliant shades of white. Narrow streets wind between stone houses, flower-filled balconies, and charming piazzas. During summer evening, the town comes alive with locals and visitors gathering outdoors to enjoy the cooler temperatures and relaxed atmosphere. The second kind of Puglia is coastal Puglia. Polignano a Mare perches atop a limestone cliffs overlooking the Adriatic. This is where the annual diving competition takes place. Monopoli combines historic charm with a working fishing harbor. Otranto sits at Italy's eastern edge, where centuries of maritime history remain visible in its streets and fortifications. These towns offer a perfect blend of culture, scenery, and coastal life. Of course, most people arrive for beach Puglia. From the turquoise waters of the Torre del Orso to the long sandy beaches near Gallipoli and the famous beaches of Pescoluse, often called the Maldives of Salento, Puglia offers some of the finest swimming conditions in Italy. This is where many Italians themselves choose to spend their summer holidays. Of course, we have historic Puglia. Greeks, Romans, Byzantines, Normans, Swabians, Venetians, and Aragonese all left their mark here. Visitors can explore Roman roads, medieval castles, magnificent cathedrals, ancient ports, and Baroque masterpieces. Cities like Bari, Lecce, and Trani reveal layer upon layer of incredible history. And of course, I also like to mention authentic Puglia. This is a world of ancient olive groves. You'll see some of the olive trees are 500 years old. Family-run masserie, those are the farm stays where you can stay with the family. Local festivals, fishing traditions, open-air markets, and long lunches that stretch into the afternoon. When we came to Puglia, my friend Kate prepared a 3-hour lunch that included all of the Pugliese specialties. It was absolutely magnificent. Authentic Puglia here is found in the quiet villages, the countryside roads lined with stone walls, and conversations with locals who remain deeply connected to Puglia. Together, these 5 personalities help explain why Puglia appeals to such a wide variety of travelers. Whether you're coming for the beaches or history or food or culture, or part of your group wants to be on the beach all day and the other part wants to be in town, you will find a version of Puglia that is perfectly suited for you. Puglia is filled with beautiful towns, beaches, and coastal villages. If I were introducing someone to the region for the first time, there are a few destinations I would prioritize. Together, they showcase the scenery, culture, history, and atmosphere that make Puglia one of Italy's most rewarding summer regions. The first town I want to mention is Alberobello. Home to about 10,000 residents, Alberobello is famous for its extraordinary Trulli. These are whitewashed conical stone buildings topped with these distinctive conical roofs. Some have markings that look magical. It's been one of Italy's most recognizable traditions from an architecture standpoint for centuries. Walking through the town, it feels like stepping into a storybook. Hundreds of Trulli line the narrow streets, creating a landscape unlike anywhere else in the world. The unique construction dates back centuries and earned Alberobello recognition as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. While many visitors arrive on day trips, I encourage you to spend some time wandering beyond the busiest streets. The town rewards exploration, especially in the early morning or evening when the larger tour groups have departed. What makes Alberobello particularly special is that these are not simply historic structures preserved as a museum. Many truly continue to be homes, shops, restaurants, and accommodations, allowing visitors to experience a living tradition that is deeply connected to Puglia's history. The houses were built in this way because it was a way for the locals to avoid taxes. The houses could be taken down quickly if the tax man was coming. For first-time visitors, Alberobello provides one of the most unforgettable experiences, and shouldn't be skipped. Gallipoli, which means beautiful city in Greek. Gallipoli remains somewhat overlooked by international visitors. It's located on the Ionian coast, and it's divided between a modern town and then the historic center, situated on a limestone island connected to the mainland by a 17th century bridge. The old town is filled with narrow streets, Baroque churches, seafood restaurants, and beautiful sea views in every direction. Gallipoli is special during the summer. It has a combination of historic charm and exceptional beaches. Some of the region's finest sandy beaches lie just outside of town, making it easy to combine sightseeing and swimming in a day. I also want to mention Ostuni, known as the White City. It's a hill town, dramatically rising above the landscape of olive groves and countryside not far from the Adriatic coast. The town's whitewashed buildings create a dazzling appearance under the southern Italian sun. Wandering its labyrinth of streets, up and down and over and through, is one of the great pleasures of visiting Puglia. What I love most about Ostuni is the atmosphere in the evening. We sat down in a pizzeria after enjoying the town. It was a very windy day, beautiful, but the temperature's cool at night, and the residents and visitors fill the streets, cafes, and piazzas, creating a unique southern Italian energy. I also want to mention Otranto, because this is located at the easternmost edge of Italy. Otranto has spent centuries serving as a gateway between east and west. The town's history is remarkable. It has Byzantine influences, it had Norman rulers, it got invaded by the Ottomans, and it was a major maritime trade route that helped shape its character. Today, visitors are drawn here by the beautiful waterfront and, of course, my favorite, the castle, the Castello Aragonese, and a magnificent cathedral, famous for its extraordinary medieval mosaic floor. Otranto also serves as an excellent base for exploring the Salento Peninsula and the most beautiful beaches of the region. I also want to mention Monopoli. This historic town flows directly into a picturesque harbor where blue fishing boats continue to provide a reminder of maritime heritage. Whitewashed buildings, seaside fortifications, hidden piazzas, and small urban beaches create an atmosphere that feels both beautiful and authentic. You can walk on the outside of the castle walls, which we did. It was a very beautiful way to experience the town. Another town I want to mention is Polignano a Mare. If there's one destination that has become the symbol of Puglia tourism, it's this town. Perched dramatically atop limestone cliffs overlooking the Adriatic Sea, Polignano offers some of the most iconic coastal views in Italy. The historic center is narrow lanes, sea view terraces, hidden corners, and viewpoints that seem to appear around every turn. For me, Polignano is more than a photograph. My husband and I spent a glorious week here using the town as our base for exploring this part of Puglia. We rented an apartment overlooking the sea and quickly settled into the rhythm of wonderfully Italian life here. In the mornings, we would wander through the historic center before the crowds arrived. The town was peaceful, the streets nearly empty. The Adriatic sparkled along the coast. One of the things I appreciated most about Polignano was how easy it was to explore without a car. The train station is outside of that historic center in sort of the castle walls, but it's a short walk. And there's also grocery stores and restaurants right outside the castle walls. Many afternoons ended with a gelato, of course, in the main piazza, watching daily life unfold. In the evening, we would have dinner at one of the famous cave restaurants or at our Airbnb, which had a sea view. We also enjoyed a boat excursion along the coastline to explore the sea caves that are underneath Polignano. The caves were spectacular, carved into limestone cliffs by centuries of waves and wind. The captain pulled us straight into the cave. There's an oculus at the top where the light came in, making the water absolutely lovely. We did swim. The water was frigid in May, but that made the experience memorable. Of course, the famous Lama Monachile Beach remains one of the town's most recognizable sights, framed by towering cliffs and crystal clear water. But what I remember most was not the single viewpoint or attraction. It was the feeling of spending a week living here, living with the locals, enjoying the mornings, evening walks, flavorful food, and the pleasure of just being by the sea. One thing I want to mention about that cave tour in Polignano is when we booked it, we thought it was going to go out of Polignano, but it actually goes out of a different town. So we did have to drive there. It was a little far to walk. Some people say you can walk it, but I can't imagine how. I want to mention a few more towns. Trani is actually my favorite town in all of Puglia. It's located on the Adriatic coast north of Bari, and it's this beautiful combination of history, beauty, and authenticity. The town's most famous landmark is its magnificent 11th century cathedral, dramatically positioned beside the sea, used by the Crusaders on their way to the Holy Land. Built of pale local stone, it rises directly from the waterfront and creates one of the most beautiful settings. Nearby is the Swabian Castle, constructed by Emperor Frederick II in the 13th century. It's just a few seconds away from the Duomo. And when I went to the castle, I was the only one there. And I took incredible pictures of the waterfront and the cathedral, and I actually got somewhat lost in the Swabian Castle, thinking, well, eventually I'll find my way out, but there was nobody working there and nobody else visiting. So I just kept wandering into all the different areas outside and inside until I found a path out. During our visit, we stayed at a hotel called the San Paolo al Convento. It was a 4-star, I think, former convent overlooking both the harbor and the cathedral. And it was just beautiful views, fireworks in the evening. And each morning I walked out while my husband slept to enjoy the fishing boats and the local residents who were beginning their day. My favorite memories are breakfast at Bar Europa for coffee and pastries before setting out to explore. This was a very simple, authentic town and a great experience that draws me back to Puglia. It's a beautiful setting. Not overly polished, but lots to do and good connections. One other town I want to mention is Altamura. One of my favorite experiences in Puglia had nothing to do with a restaurant. It was a loaf of bread. Altamura sits inland from Bari on the Murge Plateau and is famous throughout Italy for its pane di Altamura, one of the country's most celebrated breads. In fact, it was the first bread in Europe to receive the protected designation of origin status, recognizing a tradition that goes back to Roman times. When we visited, we parked outside the historic center and began walking through the town toward one of Altamura's most famous bakeries. Along the way, we passed the magnificent cathedral and there was a wedding taking place. Church bells rang and guests gathered outside in their finest clothing, and we found ourselves enjoying part of the celebration. Our destination was the Antico Forno Santa Caterina, one of Altamura's most famous bakeries for this incredible bread. As soon as we stepped inside, the aroma was unforgettable. This giant wooden oven was cooking the loaves. They were large loaves with deep golden crusts and a distinctive shape that makes the pane di Altamura famous. There is also a festival associated, of course. We bought the loaf warm from the oven, and she told us not to close the bag until it was cooled. We had to take a bite before we left town, and the crust was wonderfully crisp. It needed no butter or seasonings of any kind. It was completely full of flavor. These loaves are baked in this large communal wood-fired oven. In the past, families would prepare their dough and bring it to a local baker who would bake the dough for dozens of loaves at once. And tradition says the bakers even marked the loaves with the family's symbol so that each loaf could be identified when it emerged from the oven. I think one of the most entertaining parts of our visit was watching the baker as he worked the enormous wood-fired oven. Using a long wooden peel that seemed several meters long, I think it was at least 9 to 12 feet long, he would guide the loaves deep into the oven and move them around, but each time he pulled it out, there'd be somebody coming in the front door he had to be careful not to hit. It was visitors staying alert or risk being bumped by the baker as he maneuvered the bread in the ovens. An incredible historical experience. We carried our bread through the streets of Altamura, tearing off pieces as we walked, and it was this simple experience that made this town so memorable. In a region known for beaches and sea caves and coastal towns, one of my strongest memories is this warm loaf of bread, a cathedral wedding, and a bakery that continues traditions of hundreds of years. One thing I want to mention before we talk beaches, some of the beaches featured the Stabilimenti Balneari, which is the beach umbrellas, loungers, restaurants, facilities. Others are located within nature reserves, require a hike or a walk through maybe a forest or a coastal landscape to arrive. Neither is better. It simply depends on what you're looking for convenience or a more comfortable natural experience. You've probably heard me talk about beaches in previous episodes, so we'll get on to the beautiful beaches of Puglia. Our journey begins on the Gargano Peninsula, one of the most dramatic stretches of coastline in all of southern Italy. The Baia del Zagare is famous for its towering white limestone cliffs and two magnificent sea stacks that rise from the Adriatic like monuments. The contrast between brilliant white rock and the deep blue sea creates one of Puglia's most iconic landscapes. Access can be somewhat limited, particularly during the summer, as many visitors reach the area through a nearby hotel or boat excursion. This is a less traditional beach day and more of a destination where the scenery itself is the attraction. Number 9, Vigna Nautica. Continuing along the Gargano coast, we'll arrive at Vigna Nautica, a beach surrounded by towering cliffs and fascinating sea caves. Unlike Puglia's larger beach destination, this is a natural wonder. Visitors descend toward the beach and are rewarded with crystal clear water and spectacular coastal scenery. This is one of the best places to combine a beach day with a boat excursion. Exploring the nearby caves and hidden coves from the water provides a completely different perspective of the coastline. Number 8, the Cala della Pergola. Near Monopoli, the Cala della Pergola offers a more intimate beach experience. It's not a wide sandy beach filled with rows of umbrellas. Instead, it's a small cove where locals and visitors come to relax, swim, and enjoy remarkably clear Adriatic waters. Bring a beach towel and some shoes, find a spot among the rocks, and enjoy one of the quieter corners of coastal Puglia. I mentioned the Torre del Orso before. This is part of Salento. Torre del Orso is one of Puglia's classic summer beaches. A broad crescent of golden sand curves around crystal clear water, while the famous Delle Sorelle sea stacks rise just offshore, the two sisters. This is exactly the kind of beach many travelers imagine when they dream of their summer holiday. Visitors can choose between the beach establishments offering the services or simply spread a towel on one of the free sections of the beach. Families especially appreciate the soft sand and the gradual entry into the sea, which is great for families and kids. Number 6, the Baia dei Turchi. Just north of Otranto lies one of the most beautiful natural beaches in Puglia. Reaching Baia dei Turchi requires a pleasant walk through pine forest, which helps preserve its unspoiled character. As the trees open, visitors are greeted by soft sand, transparent water, and one of the most picturesque stretches on the coastline. There are few services here, so I recommend bringing water and anything else you'll need for the day. Number 5, Porto Salvaggio. Porto Salvaggio is for travelers who love nature as much as beaches. Located within a protected nature reserve, the experience begins with a walk through pine forests and Mediterranean vegetation before arriving at a rocky bay with astonishingly clear water. There are no rows of beach clubs here, no resort complexes, just nature, swimming, snorkeling, and one of the most beautiful protected coastlines in southern Italy. This is one of those places that rewards travelers willing to venture slightly off the beaten path. Number 4, the Punta della Suina. Near Gallipoli, the Punta della Suina combines natural beauty with some of the comforts many travelers appreciate during their summer holiday. Pine trees provide shade above rock ledges and small swimming areas, while beach facilities make it easy to spend the entire day at the sea. The water here is extraordinary, displaying shades of turquoise that surprise first-time visitors. By late afternoon, many people remain to watch the sunset over the Ionian Sea. Just a reminder that my blog will include all of these beaches in case you don't know my Italian. If someone showed you photographs of this next site and claimed that it had been taken in the Caribbean, you would believe them. This is the Punta Prosciutto. The sand is pale, the water is remarkably shallow, and the colors range from turquoise to brilliant shades of blue. Part of the beach is served by a beach establishment, while other sections remain free. Arriving early is advisable during the summer because it has become one of the most sought-after destinations in Salento. Number 2, Pescoluse. Known through Italy as the Maldives of Salento, Pescoluse offers kilometers of sand and calm water. This is one of the easiest beaches in Puglia for a full day of relaxation. Visitors can rent their umbrellas and loungers, enjoy the restaurants, or simply walk along the expansive shoreline. Families love the shallow water, swimmers appreciate the clarity, and photographers are often captivated by the remarkable shades of blue. Number 1 is going to be in the north. My favorite, the sea caves and the hidden beaches of Vieste. I'm not selecting a single beach here, but an entire stretch of coastline. The area surrounding Vieste on the Gargano Peninsula, which is that little spur of the heel of the boot, contains some of the most spectacular coastal scenery in Italy. Here, dramatic cliffs conceal hidden beaches. Natural arches frame views of the Adriatic. Sea caves carved by centuries of waves reveal secret coves and swimming spots inaccessible by road. The best way to experience this coastline is by boat. You'll travel along the shore, discover beaches that seem completely untouched, caves glowing with a reflective blue light, and swimming opportunities at places that few visitors ever reach. For me, this coastline represents the best of Puglia. It combines adventure, natural beauty, crystal clear water, and a sense of discovery that remains increasingly rare in today's world. These beaches showcase how diverse Puglia can be. But summer in Puglia is about more than swimming, so let's explore some experiences beyond the beach. Number 5 is watch some orecchietti being made in Bari Vecchia. Here in the center, visitors can walk through the narrow lanes where the local women continue the centuries-old tradition of making orecchiette, the little ear pasta, by hand. Small tables sit outside, and dough is rolled, shaped, and prepared much as has been for generations. Buy from these women on the street instead of at the supermarket. The pasta is delicious. One mistake I did make with this fresh pasta is that I didn't keep it in the fridge and it went moldy in like a day. So, fridge, use it quickly or put it in the fridge. Lesson learned. Number 4, Alberobello, and of course the Trulli is quite an experience that we talked about. I also want to mention number 3, which is spending an evening in Lecce. Lecce, as I mentioned, is called the Florence of the South. It's famous for its extraordinary Baroque architecture carved from warm local limestone. The city comes alive in the evening. This is the spot where I got my first panzerato, which is a truly Pugliese food. It's a folded pizza. Some might call it a fried calzone, but it was the best thing I had in Puglia. It was absolutely delicious. And I had it here in Lecce right by the cathedral. I often tell travelers, don't rush through Lecce. There's a cathedral as well as a basilica. They've got a castle and beautiful streets. It's one of Italy's most beautiful urban experiences. If you might consider staying at a masserie, it can be a great way to enjoy Puglia. These are fortified farm estates. Some of them are beautiful accommodations surrounded by olive groves and countrysides. They often have a pool, and they allow you to connect with an agricultural, rural tradition in Puglia. Many offer cooking classes, wine tasting, olive oil experiences, farm-to-table dining, and opportunities to get to know Puglia in a deeper, more connected way. And number 1, as far as experiences, sunset at Santa Maria de Leuca. At the very tip of Italy's heel lies one of the most beautiful places in all of Puglia. Santa Maria marks the point where the Adriatic and the Ionian Seas meet. For centuries, pilgrims, sailors, and travelers have considered this a special place. Today, visitors come for the dramatic coastal scenery, its lighthouse, its waterfront promenade, and spectacular sunsets. As evening approaches, the light softens across the sea and the coastline begins to glow. Standing at the edge of the peninsula, looking out across the Mediterranean, it's easy to understand why this destination has attracted travelers for generations. It's the perfect place to reflect on everything that Puglia offers: the sea, the history, the beauty, and the slower pace of life. Now, after exploring the region's beaches, experiences, and coastline, let's put everything together for a 7-day itinerary. One other international tip I want to mention. One aspect of Puglia is that many international visitors overlook the fact that it is one of Italy's great maritime gateways. For centuries, travelers, merchants, pilgrims, and armies crossed the Atlantic from Puglia to destinations throughout the Mediterranean. Today, ferry services continue to connect the region with several international destinations. Bari serves as a primary hub, offering routes to Greece, Albania, Montenegro, and Croatia, depending on the season. Brindisi also maintains important ferry connections, particularly to Greece, while smaller seasonal routes may operate from other ports in summer months. For travelers with additional time or the interest in adding a different country to your trip, it's entirely possible to combine Puglia with Dubrovnik, Split, Kotor, or any of the locations along the Adriatic coast. You can fly into Puglia and then fly back from Croatia. Standing on Puglia's eastern shoreline, it's easy to understand why the region has long served as a bridge between Italy and the wider Mediterranean world. Let's talk about a 7-day Puglia itinerary. 7 days, not enough, I know. You can enjoy a wonderful trip using trains and occasional taxis, or you can rent a car to explore countryside, beaches, and smaller towns. For first-time visitors, I recommend flying into Bari if possible. If you are already traveling elsewhere in Italy, high-speed trains connect Rome and Bari in about 4 hours, but I think there's just one a day. You can base yourself in one base for 7 nights, like we did at Polignano a Mare, which has good train connections, or Monopoli. Both towns are beautiful, walkable, and well-connected, also centrally located for exploring much of the northern and the central part of Puglia. On day 1, you would arrive in Bari and transfer to Polignano a Mare or Monopoli. By the way, Bari is chapter 7 in my Ultimate Festival and Travel Guide, and Polignano is chapter 12, Monopoli is chapter 33. That, of course, includes your walking tours, restaurant recommendations, accommodation recommendations, day trips, how to get there and get around, and, of course, the festivals. You can explore Bari and Bari Vecchia for a day. You'll, of course, explore your base for a day, whether that's Polignano, Amari, or Monopoli. You can take a day trip into Alberobello and also visit Loco Rotondo, which is nearby. Alberobello is chapter 27 in my Puglia guide, and Loco Rotondo is chapter 19. Ostuni is another good day trip, chapter 23 in my guide, with walking tours, etc. The sea, cave, and boat excursions is a good way to visit Polignano Amari, maybe toward the end of your visit. And I also, of course, love the town of Trani, which makes a great final day at the beach or in town. This approach minimizes hotel changes, which I know it can be easier to move hotels, but you got to pack up. Or you could do 2 bases for 7 nights. You would do 3 nights in Polignano Amari or Monopoli, and then another 4 nights in Otranto or Lecce further to the south. Otranto is covered in chapter 35 of my guide, and Lecce in chapter 21. Then you're moving south to Salento, where you have the completely different atmosphere, and you can explore Otranto, Gallipoli, Torre del Orso, and some of Puglia's most beautiful southern beaches. I often recommend Otranto for travelers who want immediate access to the sea. While Lecce is ideal for those who enjoy architecture, it is not a seaside historic center. My personal recommendation, I prefer the 1 base approach, but I can understand getting down to Salento requires the 2 base approach, so I'm willing to go with it. You would spend the first few days in sort of northern Puglia and then the second few days in southern. One of Puglia's greatest advantages is that much of the region can be explored by train. And with that, we'll conclude our journey through Puglia. Next time, we're going to continue to head north, this time Italy's Tyrrhenian coast, to explore a different side of summer. We'll discover the beaches of Tuscany, the islands of the Tuscan archipelago, the coastal towns of Lazio, and some wonderful destinations that are overshadowed by Italy's more famous seaside regions. Join me next Friday as we uncover the summer secrets of Tuscany and Lazio. Until then, travel slowly, travel deeply, and let the cities tell their stories.
Planning your perfect trip to Italy? Everything you need, all in one complete guide. All the sites, organized into thoughtfully designed walking tours, curated experiences, top-rated restaurants, and detailed maps. Plus, how to get there and get around, with train, driving details, and accommodation recommendations. The only guide that includes Italy's incredible festivals, and how to enjoy them like a local. A complete series covering Italy's most beautiful regions. Turn your dream trip into reality. Get your guide today and start exploring.